Hello, good morning and welcome to Middle Earth Readings. This is your guide for the week to a more aligned, more spirit-led way of working, way of being through the week ahead. And we are working with the runes of the Northern tradition, and we're working with runic astrology. So we work with the runes to help to support our individual weird weaving, our individual partnering with destiny, and we work with runic astrology to help us to align to the bigger movements, of energy. Morning, Suzanne. Thank you for saying hello in the chat box. I can see that people are arriving. Hi Maggie, hi Shannon. I just wanted to say thank you to those of you who I know are trying to schedule to begin at 11, and when you arrive at 11 you can be pretty much guaranteed that I am there getting myself ready and organised, but sometimes I do start a few minutes late, and the reason for that is normally to do with alignment. I've done my prep and my work for the session, and then I get to the beginning of being ready to start the live, and it feels like, something is wrong, something is out of alignment, and I have to do that moment of pausing, that take a pause moment to think, what is it that's not in alignment. And that's one of our themes today. We're going to be working with completion because we are now in the waning moon, and we're going to be working with alignment. As it turned out, the main thing that was out of alignment is that my power cable wasn't working properly. So if I had started, the computer would have died partway through, but we managed to find a spare power cable. So there's always a reason when it comes. So if you are sitting waiting for Middle Earth readings to start, my invitation to you would be to feel into the phase of the lunar cycle that we're working with, and to start to work with that. So through the course of today, when we think about the 6 runes that we're going to be working with, I'm going to introduce them to you and think about your runes, whether they are the 6 or not. We're thinking about release and completion. So you want to start to be, for example, now would be a really good time if you don't have a piece of paper and a pen. Grab yourself a piece of paper, grab yourself a pen, write the rune that you are working with at the top of your page, and then just write down your review, a little space for review. What have I received through the course of this last 3 weeks of working with my rune? What have I received? What might be, I've had some little insights, I've had some stuff, but I might not have worked on it yet, because that's part of the releasing process. It's saying either, yes, I'm going to do this work now, or no, I've had the insight, but it's not the right time to take action on it. It's taking that, this is part of release and completion. And starting to think into what are you grateful for then through the course of this month. So start to think a little bit about that review. As I'm speaking, as I'm talking you through the runes, you might get some insights coming through that you want to reflect on your paper. You can also do this obviously after the session. So when you're waiting for me to start, that's what you could be starting. You're thinking, what does this moon phase have to offer me? What magics have I been working on? What do I want to release and complete at the moment? So as I said, we are working with 6 runes as our guides for this week. These are the last of all 24 of the runes. So they're the last, why can't I speak? We've done 6 runes over the last 3 weeks, and therefore we are now on our final 6. We will have worked with all of the runes of the Elder Futhuk, and we'll be beginning a new cycle again next week when we begin with the new moon. So we're going to be working with Northes, the rune of necessity. So if that's your rune, you can say hooray! And we're going to be working with Wunyo, the rune of belonging and joy and kindred and family and ecstasy. We're going to be working with Ingus, the rune of the seed and gestation and hidden potential and mystery. We're going to be working with Athala, the rune of estate and legacy and the ancestors. And we are going to be working with Bacano. Is that my last name? Bacano. So Bacano we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about, because we have 2 planetary movements, both for Bacano. So Bacano, if your personal rune is Bacano, then you've got a lot of energy to draw on through this time. So if you do any readings this week and Bacano comes up, it's a great time. Or if you just want to work with this rune, it's a great gateway rune at the moment. If it's a rune that you get stuck on or that you really like, it's a great rune. It is the rune of new beginnings. It's the rune of the birch tree. And it's also that it's got a little bit of a trickster energy to it. So I'm going to be talking a little bit more about Bacano as well. And we're working with Yera. So Yera is the older word for year. It literally means a year, and you can see summer and winter circling each other, and it's about slow success, building in a more, I sow the seeds and then I know that success will come. We're talking about alignment. It's that sense of knowing when, the sense of knowing when to act, when to pause, when to rest. So yeah, those are the runes that we're going to be working with. But please do share your runes, and I can see that some people have already. Suzanne saying Bacano is my Loki's chariot. Candice is saying my lunar rune is Hargalaz. I know you've been working with Hargalaz through the course of these last 3 weeks, but your daily rune is Athala, so you're going to give a few insights there. Carolyn says, wishing everyone a great start to the week. Yes, indeed. And hello to April and Zoe and Suki as well. Do not worry, Suki, you have not missed the first 7 minutes. I did start a little bit late. So I've mentioned that we're working on the theme of completion and alignment. So our completion is because we're working with the lunar energy of completion. We've just had we've had our full moon, very powerful full moon, that full moon in Rado, offering the rhythm and the journey, and it was quite a stabilizing rune at a time when some of the other energies were a little bit let's say a little bit challenging to deal with. And now we're into the waning phase. Now some of our ancestors, not all, because there were the stories of the gods and of the peoples were oral traditions that were being passed down through tribes. You can imagine maybe a traveller moving across the lands, sharing a story of the moon. And the traveller tells the story at one place, and then they go to another place, and it's a different group of people, and they need a slightly different story. Reading the energies of the room, which is what storytellers, what spiritual or oracular storytellers do. And so they tweaked the story slightly, and then it was passed on, and we get another story and another story. So the story of the Northern traditions is more like it's an interwoven web that holds power and wisdom within it, where the shapes of the stories can change as they are needed, a little bit like the way that weird flows, but there are archetypal energies and primal motifs that are caught within them, which is the ulog, the fixed part of fate, you might see as well. So this story tells us that the moon, in one story, the moon is actually the well of weird itself. And so when the moon grows into fullness, that is when it's at its fullest point. That is when it is the most potent. That's when the magic can be harnessed at that time. And then the weird starts to pour away, and it pours out into the world. So the magic flows out into the world and shapes destiny. It does all of these things. And as it starts to wash away, it's a chance for us also to release, which is what we're going to be doing through this session. So you're going to be working with your rune and saying, okay, so how can I work with my rune as a spirit guide that supports me in release, both in terms of releasing some of the energies that I've been working with, perhaps some of the intentions that I set through this lunar cycle, working on the basis that, perhaps I set some intentions right at the beginning. Some of them have been successful, in which case, Wunyo to you. Where's my drinking horn? My drinking horn is not in the room. Imagine I'm holding my drinking horn. If you have a drinking horn, Wunyo to you. I'm raising my drinking horn to you because you have, you've achieved the intentions. You've harnessed the energy of your rune. And then some of them you'll say, actually, I didn't do that. And the important point here, and I say this to people in the symbol rites that we do through the Awaken programs, if you're doing that, you'll know we go deeper into this. It's owning that. I didn't do the thing. I thought I was going to do the thing. Why didn't I do the thing? This is the review and reflection piece. What got in the way? What blocked me from doing it? What might be a little bit bigger? What might just not be the right time? Perhaps if I've got the Yarrow rune is saying, well, the span of this intention is longer than a month, but own it is the important thing. So own I didn't do it. Either I'm letting it go because it is no longer part of my weird, in which case, depending on what rune you've got, you can do things like combing out the energy from that intention. But do an intentional release. Go for a walk. Write down what you said you wanted to do and then bury it. Burn it with a candle. If you've got the North is rune, do a little bit of burning. Or you can, with the North is rune, you can use threads. You can imagine that you tie a knot. Say the thing that you wanted to do. I said I was going to do this. Tie the knot. There it is, the representation of the thing. And then you can either untie the knot and destroy the thread, or you can cut the thread. That's the energy of Skuld, the Norn of what of that which must be. She is also the Norn that comes and cuts away. What you don't want to do is to end up with what I think of as an energetic hangover. The release phase of the moon is an opportunity to ensure you do not end up with an energetic hangover. Finish, complete. Give those gratitudes, and this is why. Where's my drinking horn? I do know where it is. I think it's actually on the draining board. But if I had it with me, I would be toasting you right now. Make sure that you do give those gratitudes as well, because that's telling the universe with that vocalization. That was great. Thanks. Give more of that. That's why those gratitudes are important. So all of the different runes that we are working with offer different ways in which you can think about completion, think about the way in which you can complete the arc of work with them. With my Uru's rune, I know that there are some things that I need to do that are longer term. So it's about saying, okay, how do I embed that into my practice to make sure that that continues and it doesn't get lost? So a completion is almost turning what were intentions into ritual and routine. So you can start to think about it in that way. Let's look at our planetary movements first with the willing and able assistance of the Bacano rune. Here we are, the Bacano rune. So the rune, as I've said, of the birch tree, of new beginnings. And the Bacano rune is moving into Suna's chariot today, so into the sun. I should say actually the sun is moving into the Bacano rune. I don't want to confuse you there. So the sun moves around the runic wheel, as do the other planets. And so this is when the Bacano rune is expressed in its most in its purest form in many ways. You can imagine that Suna, the goddess of the sun, and she's like charging forward with her flame. She doesn't have an let's say like an agenda or a realm in the same way that the other planets might do. She's literally like, Bacano, we are in Bacano, and she offers that energy to the Bacano rune so that it is more potent, more powerful, more present. It's one of the reasons why for me, when I started to work with runic astrology and to work with the wheel, and I was like, well, in the northern hemisphere, Bacano is the middle of the half month of Bacano, so the 2-week period that we've just entered is bang in the bang in the middle is the spring equinox. And that fits so well with the Bacano energy. You'll notice that the rune has these sort of two halves. It does represent the light and dark. It is new beginnings, but there is as with all runes, it has a sort of dual nature to it. So it presents what can feel like a very gentle, the small little seedlings growing up, this green new life carpeting the earth, coming through this abundant energy of new life coming everywhere. But what it also contains within it is the survival instinct of life. And this is important. There is a resilience to this rune. It is Loki, the trickster god, is associated with this rune as well. There is I will use whatever means necessary to survive. So, there's what is the word? Ruthlessness almost, which we need. We need that, in times where we're saying, okay, I'm going to be a little bit cruel to be kind with myself and just say, you just didn't do this. I'm not going to let you walk through next month feeling guilty about it. That is not going to happen. What do you need to do to put that down? Now, that's the Bacano energy. It's almost the as a mother energy, because it's the divine feminine, the rune of the divine feminine. And sometimes the divine feminine can be a bit tough love, let's say. So we've got Bacano, there's the tough love element within there as well. So it's a great rune for new beginnings and new projects, but it's also a great rune for releasing, to say, this isn't going to work. And I want you to think about a tree that has released its seeds out into the air, and they have been carried by the air in all sorts of different directions. And some of them fall by the wayside, some of them get eaten, some of them fall where the soil isn't that great for them, others fall where the soil is brilliant for them. Some of them, there's a wildfire off in the distance, and that's not looking great, at this point. Through the woods of wildfire. But what actually happens is, as the seeds are going along, the rains start to fall at the same time. And they fall down, and the fire is extinguished, and these seeds fall into the newly cleared soil where older trees used to stand, or where there was a lot of weeds and overgrowth, where if they had fallen the previous week, they wouldn't have received the light that they needed. But because they have fallen at this time, they have all that they need to grow. And so for them, that was a moment of alignment. And this is where we're coming into this idea of like completion, and alignment is coming through as well. So the Bacano energy supports us in completion, in terms of saying, yes, I need to let go of this, I need to let go of that. And in asking for that mother energy to come through to support us in that time, if you work with any goddesses who feel like a strong guidance or a mother presence, it's a really good time to work with them at this point, both for some gentleness, but also for some, when do I need that tough love energy to draw me through? And in terms of feeling into alignment, in terms of saying, well, where do I need to go? What do I need to do in order to be the seed that finds the place? In order to say, yeah, I'm going to start a little bit late, but there's something off, and I need to know what it is. Oh, the power cable is not connecting properly, and so I need to find another one. It's these sorts of things are part of the Bacano energy that you're feeling into. So we have Suna's chariot's moved today, and then Frigg's chariot is also going to move into Bacano. So this is Venus, and at the moment Venus, or Frigg's chariot, is in the lead. If you sort of look at the sky, Frigg's chariot is first. Well, actually, I'll tell a lie. Ignore me now. This is not true anymore. For the first time in many months, obviously, I should know this now, the sun has moved into Bacano first, and Frigg's chariot is just behind the sun. Frigg's chariot hasn't been in retrograde for very long. For a long period of time now. And when it goes into retrograde, it starts to realign with the sun and with Odin's chariot. But at the moment she's ahead of Odin's chariot. So she is coming in and offering us her support and her guidance through this time as well. This real sense of embracing all of the different aspects of the divine feminine comes through quite strongly from me, and recognizing that each of us is powerful, but we are powerful in very different ways. So this is about really feeling into your own unique talents, your own talent zone, your own place to stand. The fact that that seed over there is designed for the rocky ground, and it's going to do great. I am not designed for the rocky ground. What am I designed for? For those of you who are coming to the Dream Wheel tonight, we're going to be working on vision this evening. I'm very excited about, with Odin, tapping into the big vision. We're working with Odin in the Nornir. But then the second of our retreat sessions, which is next Monday, we're going to be working on our own a unique being. And we're actually working with Freya for that, but I know that Frigg is very approving of the session as well. And having Frigg's chariot in Bacano is really nice for this, as is Suna's chariot in Bacano. It's a really great new beginnings piece for the Dream Wheel, so really harnessing those energies at the moment. Now, those are the only two planetary movements that we have got this week, which is quite nice. We can feel into those, and it's really, think about alignment, really aligned with the strong, Bacano energy coming through. Maggie's saying Bacano is my Mani's chariot and Northers is my Suna's chariot. We're going to be doing Northers as well, so that's lovely. So yeah, really potent energy for you at the moment, Maggie. And it's worth bearing in mind that when we have these time periods when our personal runes are in the ascendant, they're energized because are multiple planets in their sphere, in their field, and the song of the rune is therefore being enhanced and modified by the song of the planets as well. It can feel like an incredibly powerful, invigorating, energized time. It can feel like a really, really difficult, challenging time. I'm not saying one way or the other for you, Meg. I'm just making this point in general for people, because if we haven't done the completion piece that we needed to, or if we are out of alignment, the runes then are saying, get into alignment. That's their job. Is to do that. So over here, and that can feel a little bit uncomfortable. Whereas if we're already working in alignment, we're already sort of pulling all of those energies, all of those pieces in, and we're bringing a lot of our subconscious knowledge and our ancestral spirit knowledge through into the conscious mind, and we're treading our path with that wisdom available to us, then it can feel much better, because we are riding the current rather than swimming against it. So yeah, if you are somebody, if you've got a lot of your runes are visible for you right now, if they're very strong, have a little feel, how does that feel? What am I being called into? Now, obviously I've just mentioned, Maggie's just mentioned her Suna's chariot, her Mani's chariot. If you're thinking no idea what's being talked about right now, if you're new to Middle Earth readings, you can work with your single rune. You can pull your single rune. We work with a rune over a 4-week period, but if you're new, you can draw your rune for this week, and then we'll be drawing new runes for the new moon next week. That's absolutely fine. You can work in that way, and then you can start to layer in over time an understanding of runic astrology, which is the movement of the planets that I talk us through, and I do a little bit of what are the planetary movements each week. But your go-to place is Suna's Star Wheel, to start to work with that at a deeper level, because it gives you all of the planetary movements, and there's a lot of supporting material that we don't cover in Middle Earth readings. And then you can start to work on your birth runes, and there's lots of levels that you can work at. You can go straight in with Birth Rune Soul Journey, which is like my big program. It's long, and it takes about 2 years to cover them and to really get into your birth runes. Or we've got a Birth Rune Self-Calculation kit in Suna's Star Wheel. For those of you who are mathematically minded, you can calculate your own birth runes and start to play and have a little feel into them yourself that way. So take you in your own time. If you're new, work with one rune and then build over time. So we've got runic astrology, the movements of the planets in the current moment, and we've got birth runes, which is where the planets were at the time that you were born, and they all come together to bring you your field of power. So I thought I should have mentioned that little bit. Let me see. Anybody else have got any questions? Suzanne saying, I'm feeling like an opening ceremony, a closing ceremony for the rune I chose will become part of my new practice. Yes, I think so. And you can think about this week as being an opportunity for that closing ceremony. For some people, you could do it at any point during this week. For others, they might feel like, I wouldn't mind working on the dark moon to do that. But you want to have done it before we get to the new moon, and you choose a new one. Anybody else got any questions? Oh, hello. I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm so sorry. Lirek, I want to say good morning to you. Oh, it's it's Cheryl. That's because you got your name backwards. Cheryl, how very intriguing. So I'm not going to ask why that is the case there, but very good in terms of my mind to pronounce your name backwards. And you've been working with Shera. There you go. I've just made a bindery now of your name and the Yera rune. The Yera rune. So let's do Yera now as it's up there for you. So Yera, whereas Bacano is this very abundant, plentiful, it's often like in the moment energy that comes through, and it's very sort of invigorating energy. It's quite intense in many ways, whether it's stepping into the light as the new seedling, or whether it's going down into the dark womb of the mother. Yera is a longer term rune, so it invites you to look at the bigger picture. It's a really good rune to work with over a longer period of time. If you're working with it for a day, then you're going to be wanting to look at how much time am I giving to my longer term plans, and are the actions that I'm taking reactive, like they're like in the moment and they're going to fizzle out, tomorrow they won't be remembered, or are they more powerful, something that is going to have longevity and is going to continue to have impact through the course of the month. So for example, in the moment that I have just said that, we have a fence panel that is right opposite the window, that I've got my window here. And every year it gets weaker and weaker and weaker. And when the wind blows really strongly, it falls down and it crushes my little doozier and my rosemary. And every time we look at it, we go, oh, well, what we'll do is we'll put it back in place and we'll sort of fix it in, and we'll do a little bit of a temporary fix, and it will be fine and it will last, and we'll replace it. We're talking to the neighbours about it. We'll replace it in, when it's warmer. And that is a fizzle act. Because what's obviously happened is that as I'm speaking, the wind has just blown that fence panel down and reminded me that really what I need to do is to take long-term action to have a better fence panel that does not fall down every time there is a strong wind. So that's an example of thinking about your Yera actions. Are these long-term focused or short-term focused? Are they going to have an impact in the future? So Yera sort of encourages the not taking the easy option route. Thinking about consequences is what comes through very strongly with Yera. So you're going to want to think about what are the things that I could do to complete well my month of working with Yera. Then we have our Northers rune. I don't think anybody said they had Northers. Hi Michelle, you said I picked Largus at the new moon, and then I picked it again this morning. So yeah, and that is the case. Sometimes runes will, even though we're working on the lunar cycle, or you might be working weekly, you might be working daily on your runes, depending on if you've just started your rune practice, daily runes can be nice to get to know them well, make friends with them. But sometimes just the same rune keeps on coming up. It's like, no, we're not done. If that's the case, keep working with it, and then when it comes round at some point, when the last half month of Largus comes, it's going to be even stronger, and hopefully you will have got all of the challenging, what is it that I'm trying to achieve through the course of working with it, so that when the half month of Largus comes, you'll be like, that's great. May, I want to say, isn't it, half month of Largus? Not too far off yet. It's in the third 8. So here we go with the Northers rune. So I've mentioned Northers already in terms of the Norn Skuld, the Norn of that which must be. She is very much a patron of completion. Because she is always looking at, if you think about the tapestry, that Forthandi, the Norn of that which is weaving the tapestry of the present. And Skuld is looking at the pattern, and she's saying, well, obviously, we've got this lovely patch of red here, and how is it going to finish? It must finish in this way, or it's not going to look right. But she's also looking at any time the threads might be a little weaker, how can we fix them? That this pattern has been going for too long now, it needs to end, and so the threads need to be cut. So she's doing mending, she's doing completions all of the time. So that's what we're looking at through the course of this week, which is why the Northers rune is very powerful for you. So if you have the Northers rune, a powerful, potent rune to work with. I mentioned the Bacano rune takes advantage of wildfires. The Northers rune creates the wildfires. It says, this needs to go. And that can always, not always, but it can often feel uncomfortable. No one wants to see a wildfire. And just to be really, really clear, I am not commenting here on global climate change caused by fires, and that the temperature of the planet is going up and therefore we have more fires. That's not what I'm talking about. This is our ancestors weren't dealing with this particular form of climate change when they talked about the Northers rune. There is what you could pull into this is a sense of a bigger pattern or a bigger picture, and that the only possible, the beneficial reading that we can take from those wildfires is that it's the Northers rune saying there's something wrong, pay attention, you need to change, you need to stop this. You need to stop the actions that are causing the temperature to rise. So that was just me going off on a little tangent there from Emma. I just wanted to be really, really clear that I'm not suggesting that wildfires are always a good thing. but the energy of the Northeast rune can feel like something is happening that I don't like, but it's seeking to bring us back into alignment. It's like the natural checks and balances. You might see it as being like a little scale here that's going up and down. Obviously at the moment it's like too heavy on one side, and that's what the Northeast rune will do. So, you know, if you are living your life in a way that is not in balance, isn't in alignment, it will bring that to the fore. So again, looking at the Northeast energy, you want to look at, what did I learn from this month? What uncomfortable lessons came up? What did I learn about my needs and my desires? You know, the opposite one of that is when it feels like really good. You know, that's the side of the Northeast rune that's like you're learning to trust your instincts and to say, I might not exactly know like why I need to do this, but I need to do it. You know, it's following the Northeast rune. So it has that. It's a responsiveness. The Northeast gifts responsiveness. I mean, I was talking about reactivity and the way in which the Yarrow rune says, you know, the reactivity not so good. Now, North is very much so. You know, if I would take a different lesson. I probably wouldn't have even spotted the fence panel falling down if we were talking about Northers at the time. You know, they are offering different energies to us. So have a play with your Northeast rune. Carol, you're saying you've got Thurisaz as this week's rune. Ooh, you know, it's interesting and nice when they come up as the Thurisaz can present similar levels of challenge in some ways at the beginning of our relationships with it. Not everybody, but for some people, tends to be things that have come in and have got stuck in our energy bodies. So something that originally started as a Northeast energy, I do not like that. It does not make me feel good. Gets stuck in the body when when we're not able to honour that Thurisaz energy and say, actually, the Northeast rune taught me where a boundary was. You know, I'm not okay with a person using those words or speaking in that way or invading my personal space in that way. And the Northeast rune gives us that instinct, and then the Thurisaz rune is designed to sort of pop up and say, okay, now what do I need to do in order to re-establish those boundaries? But when we don't do that, we draw the energy of the Thurisaz rune inside, and it can manifest as, you know, repressed emotions. It can manifest as anxiety, depression, illness of various descriptions, because we're not allowing ourselves to express our needs. No, so the Northeast rune and the Thurisaz rune can have a really interesting relationship. So it's interesting, Carol, that you drew out the Northeast, your Thurisaz rune at the time we were talking about Northeast. So I wanted to bring that in. And Carolyn, you're saying that Northeast is your seen as chariot. Yeah, for those of you who have Northeast in your birth runes, that respecting your own instincts and your own intuitions is incredibly important. For those of you with Thurisaz, being able to express how you feel and the ability to hold your own boundaries is incredibly important. These are part of your essential natures. Whereas we have here the Wunyo rune. So Wunyo comes a little bit later in the first state from Thurisaz, and in some ways it's interesting because you can see that it has a shape similar to Thurisaz, because it would be Thurisaz if we could just slide the triangle bit down the vertical stave. It would sort of become Thurisaz, and sometimes it can feel a little bit like the opposite to the Thurisaz rune. It has excuse me, I'll just get some water. It has a very light energy to it. It's a rune of belonging and joy and ecstasy and freedom. That sense of it, you know, I could go in all directions right now. It's a sense of like oneness with the universe, which is very different to the Thurisaz energy, which is quite contained and, you know, sort of like pointy energy going in, saying, I am staying here and this is my boundary. Wunyo goes, let's go there. That looks great. Yeah, that looks great. I feel safe. I feel safe to do that. I don't need to hold my own boundaries because I'm in a place of safety right now where I get to expand and be free and joyous and fabulous. So if you are, if your rune has been Wunyo, you will want to be thinking about how many times have I allowed myself or been given the opportunity to create a space where I can feel that essence of Wunyo, that joy, that belonging, that sense that I don't need to hold myself boundaried or censored in this space, because here I am free. You know? It's And when you think about it in that way, the Wunyo rune and the Thurisaz rune start to partner with each other, because the Thurisaz rune creates the protected space and the Wunyo rune inhabits it and helps us to know ourselves at a deeper level, which then gives the Thurisaz rune more energy about what it needs to do in order to create more of that sacred space for us. And in this context, I'm thinking about sacred as being, that place of freedom and belonging. And I'm just to clarify with belonging with the Wunyo rune, often people, when they draw the Wunyo rune, they might say, well, this seems like a very, connected to other people. It's all about family and kin and friends and things like that. And actually, I'm a really introverted person, or I'm very energetically aware. And so for me, I can't be in that space all of the time. But it actually covers all forms of belonging. So it can be belonging on a long walk in nature alone. It can be sitting in a window seat reading poetry. Now, it can be playing an instrument alone for pleasure. Now, all of these things are available through the Wunyo rune as well. It does encourage connection to other people, but it doesn't dictate how that is done. It asks you to ask the question, how can I feel that sense of belonging? So again, when you're thinking about completions, there's a real reminder for gratitude becomes very important with the Wunyo rune. Like I said, it's not just gratitude is important, that sense of opening yourself and saying, yes, I feel that connection to the universe. I know that I'm not alone. I offer gratitude to the universe for what I have received. But it is also about weird weaving and fate creation, in the sense of using the voice to give utterance to the things that we have found positive in our lives, so that becomes, it's like putting, I really hate the term putting your order out into the universe. It sounds really consumery. I don't really like it. I'm trying to find a sort of better way of describing that. Let's say it's almost like inviting the universe to come and sing with you, and you have created your melody, you're singing your melody, and the universe is going to send back the music that is in tune with you. Whereas if you send out the, I'm really miserable and everything is horrible and everything is, you're sending out a different melody, and the universe might just go, oh, well, we'll send some responding music. It's not what we want. So when we do gratitudes, we're working in that way. Again, because I've been doing a lot of work on our Vision Quest Dream Wheel event this evening, I've been doing a lot of work on purpose, and I love some of the etymology of the word for purpose means to speak, to speak or intend. And that sense of speaking our gratitude so that we can have more of them coming through in the next month is lovely. Which takes us on very nicely into Ingus. So Ingus is at the end of the rune rows. We've got Ingus, we've got Athala, and we have got Dargaz. And we're going to be covering Athala in a moment, as well. We've already done Dargaz, but Sylvia, I can see that you've just said I have Dargaz for this week. So it's, these are, I always think about these as being like gatekeeper runes, like even more so than the others. They are gateways into something new. So we start that gateway starts probably Largu's time. Largus being the rune of water, that is the gateway between life and death. So we have Largus and we have Ingus, which is the seed that it is the gateway to new life, and it's so tiny, it's so small. So it can be missed. We can miss the potency of the seed, but it contains all power within it. It can be right from the sense of at the beginning of the universe, and you sort of imagine this energy that was not yet expressed, and then all of the universe is there. This is the concept that the Ingus rune holds within it. How can a tiny, tiny acorn hold within it all the information that is required to build an oak tree? And that without it, the oak tree could not possibly exist. And it holds within it the knowledge of how to draw energy out of its environment, channel it inside itself, and transform it into this pattern that is also a new manifestation. No oak tree is the same. It's not a replication. So the Ingus rune holds the possibility for evolution inside it. Very, very powerful rune. When we talk about releasing, there is a sense of the Ingu's rune takes us deeper into the mysteries that the Perthrow rune offers to us of surrender, in terms of saying, what is it that I need to release in order to be more myself? In order to express myself more fully. And there is an aspect of service within the Ingu's rune as well. If you think about it as being the concept of the green man is often associated with Ingus. It's associated with the god Ing as well as with Frey. Often they're considered to be the same deity. Anyway, there is this sense of the green and abundant earth that we harvest. So the seed holds all the energy within it. It grows, then we harvest it. And then we decide what we're going to do with our seeds. Some of them are offered to the gods in thanks. Some of them are eaten. Some of them are returned to the earth so that the new seeds can grow. And there's a third one, and I forgot what it is. Can't remember what it is. But anyway, you get the point. If we just ate all the seeds, there wouldn't be any left. So it's that sense of decision making that I've talked about a little bit, through the course of, again, this the waning moon is very much about decision making. It's about saying, what are the things that I might need to give up and let go of, even though they feel comfortable, in order for my shell to crack open and my next growth to emerge. That's what the Ingu's rune asks of us. It says, at the moment you're the seed. What needs to be released so that you can shatter and be reborn? Through the coming year, we can think about it as the cycle of the sun, but also obviously through, because we're looking at our lunar months as well, it could be through the course of the next month too. So there is a real power and a potency. Where is your true power? And are you giving your energy to that, or are you giving it to something else? It's sort of what the Ingu's rune asks you to look into. And then our final rune that we're going to be looking at is Athala. So Athala is after the Ingu's rune. It's very nice that they've come in a little pair there. So we have Ingu's and then Athala and then Dargaz. Candy says Ingu's is my Mani's chariot. So that's lovely then, isn't it? That we're working on Ingu's, and obviously we're working with the moon as well at the moment. And with the Athala rune, it's almost like an Ingu's rune with roots. It's that sense in which we are the successors of all of those who have come before us. There is a repetition of some of the themes from the earlier runes, because these runes are towards the very end of the Elder Futhok, so they ask us to weave a lot of the powers that the other runes have already given to us together, and to have a moment of pause with the Athala rune and to feel into legacy and estate and in service in a different way. It's like the Ingu's rune is under the land, waiting to grow, waiting to emerge into its fullest potential. The Athala rune is sitting on the land. There is almost a sense of, imagine you're sitting on your throne looking out over the land. And so the Athala rune offers a different form of service. It says, I am part of the great chain of elders. Each of us has the ability to be an elder of our tribe. I think it's one of the tragedies of our time, that we don't look at every other person as being sort of an elder in potential. What's their path? Where do they need to go? But our desire to step into elderhood, to be better than we currently are, and to offer our wisdom and our experience back to the world. These are important things. This is the ability of the tribe to reap its own wisdom. Comes through with the Athala rune. So what the Athala rune is asking through the course of this waning moon is to look not just at release in terms of what are you letting go of, but to look at release in terms of what are you giving. Now, is there any learning? Is there any wisdom? Is there any knowledge? Is there something that you want to give to another at this time? Example I'll give is my niece, who I'm a godmother. wonderful, wonderful vicar who sat down with me and we rewrote the vows so that I could say them in a way that was aligned with my own beliefs and I could be a godmother. And this year I made an advent calendar for my niece. Her birthday is on the 1st of December. And so I did this advent calendar for her, and I found objects that were either my mother's, her mother's, mine, or my grandmother's. And then they were put into the advent calendar, and I gave her the story that goes with each one. And some of those are ones that, I still like. I was like, oh, I could have kept that. But I was like, no, sometimes we need to, there is an active and a conscious gifting of our stories and the things that are precious to us. That's important. That's important within our society. It's also the way in which we can start to work on making different relationships with our with the objects around us, that we're not consumers, that we are curators of legacy, that we're curators of things, that an object passes into our keeping and we have a relationship with it for a period of time, and then we pass it on, which can be very difficult when we have so much stuff. Our ancestors did not have so much stuff, and therefore they knew how to be in sacred relationship, not just with story and land, but also with personal objects and shared objects and collective objects. So the Athala rune asks you to think about that, to say, what are you letting go of because your time with this is done, or it is your turn to gift back into the world. So that's what the Athala rune offers. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining me for this session. So as a reminder, I have mentioned, if you are not a member of Suna Star Wheel, I would recommend joining this week, because we'll be starting a brand new cycle next Monday. So if you want to see all of your planetary movements for the month ahead and get your soul care meditation and have the support pieces that are there around doing your symbol right, creating intentions during reflections, then Suna Star Wheel is the way to go. And if you are interested in joining the Dream Wheel, you can still do so. We are doing Vision Quest for the next 3 weeks, working with Odin and the Nornir on vision, working with Freya and the Disir, and then working with Thor and the Valkyrie in our final session, all looking at vision and purpose and that piece around alignment, channeling our own energy in that way. So what I would love to hear from you is, you can either put it in the chat here, or Suzanne will always do a post as well in the Hearth Space group, just asking you to reflect on what you've received from Middle Earth readings today. What rune have you been working with? How are you going to be releasing and completing? And what landed with you, through what I was talking about. Even if it wasn't your rune, you went, oh, that was an insight for me. So how are you releasing and completing? What landed for you? Share in the chat, or share when Suzanne posts our invitation for sharing to everybody. Lovely to see you all. Have a fabulous week ahead. I will be seeing you next week when we are going to be setting new moon intentions. See you all then.